What would you never tell your parents? That I once faked being sick to skip school, but then forgot and accidentally posted a picture at the mall. My mom saw it, and I had to gaslight her into thinking it was an old photo. Mom, that was from last year, remember? Meanwhile, I was wearing the exact same outfit I had on that morning. To this day, she still brings it up like a detective who never solved the case. Something about that day never added up. Yeah, and it never will, Mom. I'd never tell my parents that the school trip I went on in college was actually a last-minute Vegas getaway with my friends. We swore we'd keep it low-key, just sightseeing and relaxing. Fast forward to 3 a.m., I somehow ended up in a karaoke battle with a guy dressed as Elvis, lost $50 on a slot machine, and woke up to 87 missed calls from my mom because I forgot to check in. Had to send her a fake photo of a random museum from Google just to keep the story alive. The worst part? A year later, my parents actually visited that museum and couldn't find the exhibit I loved. Now my mom thinks she has early memory loss. I'd never tell my parents that the time I accidentally crashed the car into our mailbox was actually me testing if I could perfectly parallel park while eating a burger. Spoiler, I could not. But instead of owning up, I panicked and made up a whole story about a mystery dog running into the street. My mom even made a Facebook post warning the neighborhood about a rogue golden retriever. To this day, she still asks, I wonder what happened to that poor dog. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, nodding like, yeah, crazy world we live in. I'd never tell my parents that the lost wallet incident wasn't bad luck. It was me trying to impress a girl by doing a cool spin while pulling it out. It flew straight into a fountain, and I had to wade in like an idiot to get it back. Joke's on me, though. Turns out, she was more into my friend the whole time. So yeah, lost my dignity, my shot, and almost my wallet, all in 10 seconds. I'd never tell my parents that the time I got locked out of the house and had to sleep in my car was actually me sneaking back home at 3 a.m. after a party, only to realize I left my keys inside. Instead of knocking and risking the lecture, I decided to tough it out in the driveway. But plot twist, my dad woke up early, saw me slumped in the front seat, and thought I had been kidnapped. Next thing I know, he's banging on the window yelling my name like we were in an action movie. I had to pretend I went for a sunrise drive to clear my mind, while looking like a half-dead raccoon. To this day, my parents still think I'm deep and introspective. Meanwhile, I just really didn't want to get grounded. I'd never tell my parents that the time I missed the bus and had to stay home. I actually saw it coming, made direct eye contact with the driver, and just slowly stepped back inside, like a villain disappearing into the shadows. No regrets. Best accidental day off ever. I'd never tell my parents that the time I got lost on a school trip was actually me and my friends sneaking off to find a McDonald's because we were tired of the sad sandwiches they packed. We thought we were geniuses, until we got lost for real and had to ask a random grandma for directions. But here's the kicker, when we finally made it back, our teacher was so relieved that we were safe that she never even questioned where we were. My parents still think I got turned around in a museum exhibit, but in reality, I was out there panic-eating McNuggets while Google Maps failed me. The real lesson that day? Always drop a location pin before committing to bad decisions. I'd never tell my parents that the time I accidentally broke the TV was actually a full-on battle gone wrong. My brother and I were having an intense sock fight. Yes, we were literally throwing balled-up socks at each other like it was the final round of a video game. I went for the ultimate power shot, but the sock slipped mid-throw, and instead of hitting him, it smacked the shelf, knocking over a trophy, which then tipped over a candle, which then sent the remote flying straight into the screen. The TV cracked instantly. We panicked and staged the scene to make it look like the dog did it. My parents were so mad at the poor dog, and we felt terrible, but we had already committed to the story. To this day, they still call it the day Max went crazy, and I just pat the dog like, you took one for the team, buddy. I'd never tell my parents that the time I fell off my bike and scraped my knee was actually me trying to impress my crush by jumping off a ramp. Except I forgot I had zero stunt skills. Mid-air, I realized I had made a huge mistake, panicked, and face-planted straight into a bush. My bike landed on top of me, my crush laughed so hard she cried, and I limped home telling my mom I hit a pothole. To this day, she thinks I'm just unlucky. Nope, just very bad at being cool. I'd never tell my parents that the time I saved a friend from getting in trouble was actually me covering for my own disaster. I was at a friend's house, and we were messing around with a bottle of soda, shaking it up like we were scientists discovering a new form of energy. The plan was to open it slightly to see it fizz, except I full sent the cap, and it exploded like a fire hydrant, drenching the ceiling, the couch, and somehow even the dog. We panicked, blamed it on the friend's little brother, and I played the hero by offering to clean up. My parents were so proud of my maturity that they told the whole family I was such a responsible kid. Meanwhile, I was out there scrubbing the walls like a crime scene cleaner, praying no one noticed the sticky mess. To this day, I can't look at a bottle of Coke without flashbacks. I'd never tell my parents that the time I accidentally set off the fire alarm was actually me trying to make popcorn without a lid. I thought, it'll be fine, until those little kernels turned into heat-seeking missiles, flying all over the kitchen. One even hit me in the eye. Smoke started rising, the alarm went off, and I had to explain why I was standing in the kitchen looking like I'd survived a battlefield. I just told them, must have been a wiring issue. I'd never tell my parents that the time I stayed late at school for a project was actually me desperately trying to remove the evidence of my biggest fail. I was goofing around in the hallway with my friends, pretending to be ninjas, when I attempted a very unnecessary wall kick. Instead of looking cool, I slipped midair and crashed straight into a bulletin board, sending papers flying everywhere. The worst part? The board fell and knocked over a janitor's mop bucket, flooding the floor. We panicked, grabbed as many paper towels as possible, and tried to make it look like nothing happened. I thought we got away with it, until the next day when the principal made an announcement about a mystery vandal. My parents still think I was working on extra credit, when in reality, I was out there conducting an emergency cover-up operation. Thank you for listening to the video to the end. Like and subscribe to miss the next videos. Bye.